strange one for me.
There comes a time in every game when a player either needs to come off or the boss thinks it's time for a change. In football, there's a limit on how many substitutions can be made, but not, it seems, in politics, Northern Ireland style. The co-option system was designed to allow parties to replace councillors, perhaps who had died or resigned because of ill health, without the need for an expensive by-election. But here at Newry and Mourne Council, Sinn Fein have been accused of manipulating the system by getting rid of almost half its councillors, 6 in all, in one fell swoop. Most of the retired councillors were highly experienced and represented areas of South Armagh. By contrast, their replacements, who made their first appearance at this month's council meeting, are much younger and relatively unknown. This former Sinn Féin councillor says it's a move without precedent.
To me, that was a unique event. A clever manipulation, I think, of the co-option system, because it means that these relatively unknown new councillors now have a leg up before the super council elections in May.
But of course it's not against the law.
No, it's not against the law, but I think it's against the spirit of the law, as I understand it. Because you've got to remember, local councils are very parochial, and people will vote for local people in their areas. And it doesn't automatically mean that if a sitting councillor gets a vote, that then will automatically transfer on to the new co-opted councillor. So I think it's taken people's votes a wee bit for granted.
Sinn Féin totally reject that allegation.
This is a very significant phase of transition in local government arrangements. A significant number of councillors had indicated they didn't wish to stand for election again. I think we had a responsibility to try and manage that transition in a smooth way, and that's what we've done. And we have a very talented pool of younger, newer people coming into the council. Of course, we're losing a very significant amount of experience and hard work that those councillors who are leaving have put in, but they will be there to assist the new councillors as well.
The DUP has replaced 26 councillors since the last council elections, but it's who the party has chosen from its subs bench which has led to allegations of nepotism. In recent weeks, 3 sitting councillors have been replaced by their sons and 2 by their wives, including MLA Trevor Clark, which brought this headline in the local paper. But among the tributes for his record of service on Antrim Council, there was one jarring comment from a rival councillor.
Is there no other candidates within the Democratic Unionist Party that we see, not only in Antrim, but right across the province, family members coming into these seats?
Have the Ulster Unionist Party never done that?
Well, I'm not aware of it, and I make that very, very clear. I would have been in shaky ground had I have used this as something that was within the Ulster Unionist Party, so I'm unaware of that happening. It certainly hasn't happened in South Antrim.
The DUP says all its co-options followed competitive processes.
In some cases, you'll quite often a situation where you have somebody who's working closely with the councillor, and that sometimes can be a family member who is the best person placed to actually understand and take over the duties within that local area.
It isn't that small of a minority, if I may say so. I mean, 2 councillors replaced by their wives, 3 by their sons. In one case, it's a brother-in-law, and one other councillor in Craigavon replaced by the wife of a DUP councillor in Lisburn.
Well, sorry, should we have a ban on people who are relations of a councillor or an MLA? You had a situation across the board that between this and then other replacements where there's been ill health or death, I think we've made in the region of a little bit over 30 co-options. You've picked out, about half a dozen roughly of those where there's been some degree of relation. And I think, to be perfectly honest, when you're picking out a brother-in-law, for example, well, are you going to penalise somebody because of who they've married?
But is there any alternative to the co-option system?
In Europe, they use the list system of proportional representation. It's not quite the same as ours. And there, what they do is they simply take the next name off the list. You could use by-elections, but then they would end up being relatively unfair in party distribution. They're also expensive. They cost about £30,000. Really, this is expediency. And it keeps the intent of democracy in the sense that if you elect a certain number of councillors, you're assured that that balance will be maintained by co-option. I read very carefully all the proposals for how you fill a vacancy. And really, all have merit, all have demerits. And no matter what happens, you're going to get people saying, well, that's unfair, or that misrepresents the views of the electorate.